Welcome to Multitext FaxFinder web demo. This presentation will give you a brief overview of Multitext FaxFinder product, and then we will look at the web interface of the FaxFinder and the different options for sending outbound faxes. Multitext Systems is a manufacturer of device networking and unified communication products. Everything we do from product development, engineering, sales, marketing, tech support, and manufacturing is done out of our headquarters in Mounds View, Minnesota. We started out as a modem company and wanted to use our industry-leading modem products to come out with some turnkey appliances such as our FaxFinder product. The FaxFinder is an all-in-one fax-to-email server that allows businesses to send and receive faxes to and from their desktop. This product offers a cost-effective solution to companies in all different types of industries. The FaxFinder will connect to analog station ports off of a phone system that's capable of DID to DTMF routing. What will happen is when a fax comes into that phone system, the phone system will route it to the analog station ports that we are connected to and send us the DTMF tones. We have a routing table built into our fax server, so we'll look up that fax number and send the fax to the appropriate destination. If you don't have a phone system that you want to connect the FaxFinder to, we can connect to analog POTS lines. So one port would be associated with one fax number, and then we can send that fax to an email or a group of emails, and then it can be routed on to the appropriate person. The FaxFinder is a turnkey solution, which means you only have one unit to manage from one vendor. This allows our device to be easy to maintain, manage, and use for both the administrator and the user. It will help to streamline processes within your organization with a quick return on investment, saving you both money and time. The FaxFinder allows incoming faxes to be routed to an email address, networked folder, networked printer, or any combination of those. It also allows you to send faxes via print client, web client, or email to fax, which we'll take a look at a little bit later. With the 2.1 firmware release, we've added some additional features to enhance the FaxFinder. One of those features is an option for a fax attachment on the email confirmation, a global phone book for centralized contact information, and the ability to set up personal and global groups for outbound faxing. The FaxFinder comes in 1, 2, 4, and 8 ports. The number of ports is going to be how many simultaneous faxes that you can have. If you need more than 8 ports, the units are stackable. We will now take a look at the web interface of the FaxFinder and how to send outbound faxes using our different clients. To go to the web interface of the FaxFinder, you're going to give it an IP address on your network. So you'd put the IP address into the address bar, and I'm going to sign in as the admin. Then first what you'll do is go under System Configuration. Here's where you can give it a host name and the IP address on your network. Then you're going to point it to your SMTP server to route incoming faxes. Then you can set up your time server, so you can set up a custom time server or pull from a time server that's already configured. If you're going to have any incoming faxes, go to a networked printer. Under printers, where you're going to set up all those different printers. You can set up different makes and models here. If you're going to have any incoming faxes, go to a network share. You're going to want to set up all of those shares here. Once you've set all that up, you can go under fax configuration, and this is where you're going to set up the modems. So I have a 2-port modem in my demo room here. So the number of modems would be how many ports you have. The modems can be set up for inbound only, outbound only, or both directions. If you are connecting this to a phone system, then you're going to do routing doing DTMF digits. Otherwise, if you're connecting to a POTS line, your routing can be in POTS mode. If you have a dial prefix, so if you need to dial a 6 or a 9 to hit an outside dial tone, you can add that prefix here, so it'll automatically add it into each fax that you send out. Then you're going to set up the inbound routing. With the inbound routing, you could set up the email size limit, and then if you want the incoming fax to come in as a PDF or a TIFF format. And then we have a few different ways for routing. There's global routing. This is where you can have all faxes be routed to a networked folder. So every fax that comes in will go to a networked folder along with any other destination that you might have set for that fax. And some people will do this just for backup purposes. You can route by lines, so by each port of the fax server you can have a destination associated. So if a fax is coming into port 1 but that extension's not found down below under recipients, it will still route that fax to whatever destination you have for port 1. And then you can take advantage of the DID technology where each person can have their own DID fax number and be able to route directly to their email address or a networked folder or a networked printer, however you want to set it up. So for example here, 5987 is Brandon Delita's fax number, and his faxes are going to be deleted at multitech.com, to the HP printer, and to a folder on the network named faxes. Once you've set up all of your routing, there is an option for outbound faxing too. This is a request we received from several people, but you can have outbound faxes be archived to a networked folder. So you would check the box to enable that if you want all outbound faxes to be archived to a networked folder. Choose if you want a PDF or a TIFF, and then the destination of that folder. And when you click on Browse here, this is pulling up from the shares that you had put in under System Configuration, so you can choose from any of those. We also have the option for outbound approval. So this is if you want to make sure that certain people aren't faxing to certain fax numbers or long distance numbers. You can have approved numbers and numbers that aren't approved, and if somebody's trying to send an outbound fax and it's not an approved number, it will send an email to the administrator or whoever the other approvers are, and they would have to approve that fax. So you can enable this outbound approval, or otherwise you can have it turned off. Now the FaxFinder also has cover pages. This is going to come with a couple of PDF templates. You can edit those templates to add your logo or contact information using Adobe Acrobat, and then you can add those cover pages directly into the fax server once you've created them. Also under fax configuration, you're going to set up what we call store and forward fax, or T.37. This is one of the options for outbound faxing where people can fax directly from their email inbox. So if you want your users to have that option, you would have to enable the T.37. And then some of the settings are global settings. If you want email confirmation, always, never, only on failed faxes, that's going to be a global setting. So whatever the admin chooses, that's what it's going to be for each person. So if the admin chooses to always have a fax confirmation receipt, every time somebody uses email to fax, they're always going to get an email confirmation saying if the fax was successful or failed. The admin can also choose if they want to have a fax attachment to that receipt. So it can be a PDF attachment, a TIFF attachment, or no attachment at all. And then again, they can include a cover page, and if they include a cover page, they'll select what template they want to include, and this is going to be the cover page that everybody ends up using when they use email to fax. Also under fax configuration is the fax log. This is where you can set up for logs to be purged, and you can set up a certain date and time. So if you want them to be purged daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, however you want to set that up, what will happen is you can check the box here to have those purged logs emailed to the administrator. So before it purges the file, it will email it as a CSV file to the administrator, and then the administrator can post those logs somewhere if they want to. But again, you can set that up to be done daily, weekly, monthly, however it works best for you. Now we're going to go under the users. And this is where you're going to set up all the users of the fax server. So you can manually add a user here. You're going to give them a username, put in their full name, what their password is. This username and password is what they would use to log on to the web interface for sending outbound faxes via the web client. Then you'd fill in their email, phone number, fax number, and organization. What this is going to do is this is going to be the information that's going to auto-populate on a cover page when you are sending a fax. Also under users, there is the option to import a CSV file. So if you have all of this information in a CSV file, you can actually import it directly into the fax server. Now finally under contacts, this is where you can set up all of your contacts. So each person's going to have personal contacts. This is going to be the admin's personal contacts here. What I had mentioned before is there's a global contacts, so the administrator can manually add or import again a CSV file of a global contacts, so anybody that uses the web client or uses the print client would be able to pull from this contact list. You can also set up personal groups, so here's the admin's personal groups, and then you can set up global groups, so again anybody that uses the web client or the print client would be able to pull from these global groups as well. Now the admin is the only person at this time that can edit the global contact list and the global group list. Each person can edit their own personal contacts and personal group lists when they sign in under their username and password. And lastly, we're going to look at the status and logs. So this is where you can check to see what a fax status is. If somebody sent an outbound fax, you'd be able to see what ports are being utilized, if there's an outbound fax or an incoming fax going. Otherwise, we have the inbound fax log. This will show any faxes that came in, the date and time that it came in, what number it came from and who the recipient was, how many pages it was. And then we also have an outbound fax log, so you'd be able to see if any outbound faxes were sent or failed, the date and time, who sent it, who they sent it to, and the fax number that it went to. Now I'm going to log out as the administrator